Former First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis remains one of the most iconic figures in history. She's basically as close to American royalty as you can get. But despite her legacy, her life was filled with complications and loss. And not just the ones everyone knows. This is her tragic story. Born to socialite Janet Leigh and stockbroker John Blackjack Bouvier III on July 28, 1929, Jacqueline "Jackie" Bouvier grew up in New York City, spending her summers on her family's country estate on Long Island. An intelligent and talented young girl, her childhood was unfortunately riddled with family drama. Her father was notorious for being a gambling, womanizing alcoholic. His gambling habits resulted in him being expelled from prep school and even losing all of his money during his honeymoon with Leigh. His womanizing ways never stopped with marriage, and he quickly attained a reputation for cheating on his wife. In 1936, the couple separated, prompting the press to publish the details of all of Bouvier's affairs. By 1940, Janet Leigh and John Bouvier divorced, leaving Jackie Bouvier with two parents who hated each other. Despite his vices, though, Jackie and her sister, Leigh, both adored their father. In an interview with T Magazine, Leigh said, "One thing which infuriates me is how he's always labeled the drunk Black Prince. He was never drunk with me." Perhaps his alcoholic reputation came from the infamous story of how, at Jacqueline's wedding to JFK, he was too drunk to walk her down the aisle. According to Leigh, though, it was a result of her parents' feud, with John drinking from, quote, misery and loneliness after Janet blocked him from attending a family dinner the night before. The Kennedys can arguably be considered one of the most iconic couples in history. Wildly famous public figures of their time, their popularity also meant that their private lives weren't so private. Their marriage was known to have been a tumultuous one, complicated by an assortment of issues. Notoriously, John F. Kennedy was rumored to have had countless affairs and has been linked to some notable figures such as Marilyn Monroe, Marlene Dietrich, Blaise Starr, and various other stars. There were also arguments over Jackie Kennedy's lavish spending and clothing bills. Apparently, things got to the point where Jackie's father-in-law, Joseph Kennedy, had to offer her $1 million to stay in the marriage, which she reportedly accepted. A key element of their marriage that drained Jackie, though, was her husband's political ambitions. An immensely private person, she somehow ended up marrying a man who loved the spotlight and was determined to become president.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
But even though Jackie disliked the White House and the fact that she had to raise her kids in the eye of the public, she conquered the challenges with style. When JFK was a senator, Jackie's remoteness and snooty attitude were considered a liability to his campaign. As First Lady, though, she became one of the nation's greatest assets, charming other parties on various diplomatic trips with the president. Jackie Kennedy did not have it easy with her pregnancies. She married John F. Kennedy in 1953, and about 2 years later, the couple was expecting their first child. Sadly, Jackie's first pregnancy in 1955 ended in a difficult miscarriage after just 3 months, with Jackie learning from the experience that carrying and delivering a child would always be difficult for her. Months later, she became pregnant again, but tragically, that one wouldn't end well either. A month before her due date, Jackie woke up on the morning of August 23, 1956, screaming for her mom. She had lost a lot of blood and later ended up giving birth to a stillborn baby. Apparently, her husband's initial reaction to the incident exposed his inconsiderate side. JFK was sailing around the Mediterranean on a yacht with a bunch of friends when his wife suffered from hemorrhaging and the stillbirth of their child. Rather than rushing back to be by his wife's side as soon as he heard the news, it took a few words from his friends to make him realize how bad his absence would look to the public. George Smathers is reported to have told the then senator, "You better haul your butt back to your wife if you ever want to run for president." After 2 difficult pregnancies, Jackie Kennedy's third thankfully finished with her successfully giving birth to a healthy baby girl named Caroline in November 1957. 3 years later, on November 25, 1960, the Kennedys welcomed their son, John F. Kennedy Jr., who, despite being born 3 weeks early and having some initial respiratory issues, would grow up healthy. However, Jackie's 5th and final pregnancy would once again prove tragic. Once again, she went into labor early, 5.5 weeks to be exact. After being flown in by helicopter to the hospital at Otis Air Force Base, Jackie gave birth to a tiny, barely 4.5-pound baby boy named Patrick. Unfortunately, the newborn was struggling with hyaline membrane disease and had a lot of difficulty breathing. The Kennedys, along with the nation, anxiously waited for his condition to improve, with the Boston Globe even running the headline, "He's a Kennedy, he'll make it." Sadly, efforts at saving Patrick proved unsuccessful, and the newborn baby boy would pass away only 39 hours later, on August 9, 1963. The death of their newborn son Patrick brought the president and First Lady closer than before, as observed by those around them. Regrettably, the effects of how the loss transformed their relationship were unable to be fully observed, as just 3 months later, the Kennedys were due for a trip to Dallas in November 1963. On November 22, 1963, President John F. Kennedy and First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy were riding in a convertible, waving to cheering crowds, when the president was assassinated by gunman Lee Harvey Oswald. Writing in his memoir, Secret Service agent Clint Hill described how Jackie held her husband in her arms, shouting, quote, "Jack, Jack, what have they done to you?" Hill also mentions how Jackie refused to let go of her husband because she didn't want the crowd to see him dying.
And I'm saying, Jack, can you hear me? Jack, I love you, Jack.
In the immediate years after the death of her husband, Jackie Kennedy lived a quiet life with her children. Initially living in Georgetown, she moved her family to New York City for its anonymity and familiarity, after the Washington, D.C. home failed to provide her with the privacy she desired. She came out of a reclusive lifestyle to help her brother-in-law, Robert F. Kennedy, with his presidential campaign. However, on June 5, 1968, just after midnight, Robert Kennedy was shot 3 times after his speech at a hotel in Los Angeles.
Senator Kennedy has been shot. Is that possible?
According to Vanity Fair, when Jackie's brother-in-law, Stas Radswell, called her at 4 a.m. asking how RFK was, she had no idea of the incident, telling him that Robert was fine and had just won California. Radswell had to break the news to her, and once again, Jackie was plunged into grief by the loss of another person close to her. The second Kennedy assassination made her start to fear for her kids' safety as well. Jackie reportedly told a friend, quote, "They're killing Kennedys in America." The Bouvier sisters, Jacqueline and Lee, were a glamorously famous pair who always had a complex relationship. Growing up with divorced parents, they relied on each other immensely, but a sibling rivalry would persist throughout their lives. When Jackie married John F. Kennedy, she ascended to the center of the public eye, while her equally talented sister became at risk of being eclipsed entirely. A pattern began to emerge during Jackie's reign as First Lady. Wanting her sister there for support, Jackie would ask Lee to accompany and help her during various trips, but the media attention was always on Jackie, who would ironically be praised for her fashion sense even when it was her sister who was instrumental in selecting her wardrobe. Around this time, Lee's marriage to Stas Radswell was breaking down, and she found herself charmed by the Greek shipping tycoon Aristotle Onassis. The Kennedys greatly distrusted Onassis, though, and disapproved. After the death of her newborn, Jackie was invited to go on a cruise with the couple, during which she took the opportunity to convince Lee not to marry Onassis. However, the trip seemed to be the starting point for a future development. About 5 years after the assassination of JFK, it was Jackie who married Onassis in October 1968. Lee was reported to have felt betrayed and devastated. While she publicly wished them well, the sisters' relationship would never fully recover. Jacqueline Kennedy's marriage to Aristotle Onassis came as a shock to the public, seeing as it occurred only a few months after Robert Kennedy's assassination in 1968. The two also had practically nothing in common, not to mention that Onassis was 23 years her senior. As told by Vanity Fair, it became apparent that the marriage was less based on love and more on benefits. Jackie Kennedy desired the stability and lavish life that the Onassis fortune could provide, while Onassis saw the world-famous former First Lady as, quote, the ultimate trophy. Unfortunately, the incompatibility of the couple quickly had Onassis starting up his longtime affair with opera diva Maria Callas again, only a month after the wedding. The couple would also get into arguments about Jackie's spending. History News Network claims that Jackie always had a shopping addiction, with entire rooms at her Fifth Avenue apartment filled with purchases that were never even removed from their boxes. Eventually, the shipping tycoon took up distastefully referring to his wife as, quote, the widow, according to Time. The early 1970s once again saw Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis suffering loss. In March 1975, after less than 7 years of marriage, her husband, Aristotle Onassis, passed away from bronchial pneumonia. He had been in the hospital for 5 weeks undergoing a gallbladder operation and was also under observation for a debilitating neurological disease, which had affected his heart. The cortisone treatment he was receiving had weakened his immune system, resulting in the pneumonia's fatal effects. Shortly after, it came out to the press that Aristotle had been planning to divorce Jackie, with the shipping tycoon consulting with his lawyer multiple times regarding the matter as recently as December 1974, as reported by the New York Times. Aristotle also apparently looked into having a private investigator dig up dirt on Jackie that could be used in the divorce proceedings. However, his daughter, Christina Onassis, denied the claims. The sudden death of those connected to her seemed to follow Jacqueline Kennedy. Even after her second husband passed away, and Jackie distanced herself from the Onassis family, tragedy still struck. In November of 1988, Christina Onassis, Jackie's former stepdaughter, died suddenly in Argentina at only 37 years old. The cause of her death is said to have been a heart attack brought on by years of drug abuse. It was often reported that Kennedy had a strained relationship with her stepdaughter, with Christina seeing her new mother as a gold digger and calling her, quote, my father's unfortunate obsession. There were also rumors of the two disputing Kennedy's inheritance following Aristotle Onassis' death. In a 1975 statement, though, Christina insisted the stories were not true and revealed she had a friendly and respectful relationship with her stepmother. In January 1994, Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Found mostly in her neck, chest, and abdomen, she began her chemotherapy sessions and was seeing optimistic progress in the beginning. In mid-March, however, she was experiencing pain throughout her legs, and it was found that the cancer, which affects the lymph system, had disappeared from its initial locations and spread to her brain and spinal cord. By May, her health had worsened considerably. On May 16th, she was diagnosed with and treated for pneumonia. 2 days later, it was found that her liver had huge amounts of the lymphoma and that there was little that further treatment could do. Not wishing to spend her last moments at a hospital, Jackie Kennedy Onassis was released. On May 19, 1994, she passed away late at night, surrounded by her family and friends at her home in Manhattan at the age of 64. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more grunge videos about historical figures are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.